Look, we need to talk about Delta Force because I keep seeing a bunch of people in the comments on every video saying that Delta Force is nothing but a Battlefield clone, when the fact of the matter is the same thing was said about Battlefield when it came out, and I know this because I was there. You see, back in the 90s, we had a lot of different milsim type games. However, they were all just for their specific thing. Like, this was a tank sim. It was one of the best. It was called Armored Fist 3, and it was made by Novalogic. Now, Novalogic is the same studio that made Delta Force, and this is it. This came out in like the early 90s, I can't actually remember, but this was like groundbreaking at the time. It had like 32 players, we were playing on 56K modems, and the one thing about it was just infantry. And then Battlefield came along and it basically took all of these different games and combined them into one game. They took the tank games, the airplane games, and the infantry games and made one massive Battlefield, and it was absolutely amazing and changed the game completely. Now, Novalogic would continue on and they would make Delta Force Black Hawk Down, which was just like the king of these type of games when it was out. However, the thing was that these were more realistic games and they were harder than the average gamer would enjoy. So Delta Force eventually started to die off. Novalogic pumped out a lot of games and they eventually just closed the studio down and sold off the license. And while everybody over here in America might have forgot about Delta Force, let me be perfectly clear. The Chinese and the kids that grew up in the internet cafes didn't, because it was a major game over there. And now those kids that grew up absolutely loving Delta Force in China are now in charge of making a new Delta Force game, and not only are they basically doing a complete remake of Delta Force Black Hawk Down, which was the best game in the series by far campaign-wise, and they're also pulling a Battlefield. They're taking the template for what has become the standard for basically large-scale multiplayer games and improving it, taking stuff from Battlefield, games like Squad and Arma and Hell Let Loose, and adding them into one unique experience where my only complaint is it's a little too arcadey for me sometimes. Oh yeah, and let's not forget, they basically took the team that made DMZ and gave them the tools and resources to make their own game they want, and they're actually turning out to basically reinvent the whole extraction shooter genre. So is Delta Force a clone of Battlefield? Well, just as much as Battlefield was a clone of Delta Force. You see, with the game industry, what you have to do is take the games that are actually doing good, and instead of trying to copy them, you try to do something better. And if you ask me, that's exactly what Delta Force has done.